Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to another episode of the Couch Talk podcast. Today, our topic is invisible Muslims. So, without any further wait, we're going to get straight into it. And I'm going to let you decide who wants to go first. But when you hear the word invisible Muslims, now I know you had a bit of prep beforehand because I said what some of the questions may be. You haven't?
Nah.
Well,
I came in here, no knowledge of what's happening, just
Okay.
so that I can.
He said
firstly,
he wants
that's
first.
that just means he didn't do any
I did.
research.
I did say that though.
But
last time.
secondly, that goes to you then. The
Yeah.
question goes to you. When you heard when you hear the terms invisible Muslims, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? What do you think
A
of?
gharib, a stranger, someone that no one knows about. That's what I think of. I don't know what invisible Muslim means. So
Mhm.
someone that falls into not being seen by the community, doing their own thing, kind of. I don't know if that's the answer.
Doing well, it's not. There's not a particular answer. Doing their own thing or being shunned from the community.
No, when I think of it, I think someone doing their own thing, not being shunned from the community. I think of someone doing their own thing, low key, quiet, isn't in the spotlight kind of thing. No one really knows about. They know of him, but they don't know about him. That's what I think of.
What about you two? You came in matching thoughts today. Do you have
Mubarak.
chemistry when it comes to this conversation? Let's see.
Dragon Ball Z fusion,
Was that planned or something?
No. Maybe not. Anyway,
They came 20 minutes early just to do that.
we planned it last week. Anyway, invisible Muslims. Okay, I thought of three different categories. Firstly, Muslims that are disabled, whether physically, or mentally as well. I think about divorcees or divorced mothers more than divorced fathers, in my opinion, or single mothers. And then finally, like young adults or youth that have got massive responsibility or burdens upon them, um, and I find it difficult to like open up to their friends or to adults.
Okay. Do you think there are people for us in the community that we don't pay enough attention to or we don't take notice of enough?
I think 100% touching on both what Mohammed and Ayub already said. I think one thing that definitely goes unnoticed is during the period of Ramadan. Brothers and sisters who are reverts to the religion. Most of the time, they don't have family or close ones that they can break their fast with, so they tend to go to the masjid most of the time. But again, you don't know the variables there, whether or not that masjid has a huge congregation when it comes to iftar and maghrib and stuff like that. But I think reverts do tend to go unnoticed when it comes to cultural and like spending time with loved ones. I think they definitely go unnoticed. And when you talk about invisible Muslims, I think they unfortunately fit the bill in our community.
Have any of you felt like an invisible Muslim at any point in your life?
From our own definition or the actual definition?
Well, there's not really an actual definition.
Is
so
it
yeah.
not? Oh, fair enough.
No.
Oh,
Or what, do you think there is?
yes.
General definition. Yeah, I think there is a general definition,
Go on.
but I think that I wouldn't say the definition, but I think the way Muhammad perceived it is not how I perceive it. So it's nice that it's kind of an open end question. But in terms of feeling invisible, I think um it it, it might happen when you're not we don't visibly look Muslim. So, for example, if I'm not wearing my thobe, or if I'm wearing like quite a thick hat or something like that, people just think I'm someone that's not Muslim. So, say for instance, yesterday on my way to Jum'ah, I was wearing a thobe, and one of the beauties of Islam is saying salam alaikum to people that you go past, right? So from home to the masjid is about a 10-minute walk. I can count probably at least 10 people saying salam alaikum to. Whereas and people saying it to me as well. Whereas if I wasn't wearing a thobe and I say salam alaikum to listen, for instance, an uncle, he would kind of be like startled. You think, oh, you're Muslim, kind of thing. But
Do you think that's because you don't look Muslim, or is it because he's shocked that in this day and age, people can say salam alaikum to
No,
strangers.
I think it's looks more rather than um being shocked about something. I think after getting alopecia as well, um, people like may not really know where I'm from.
I think you're ethnically ambiguous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas, like, if they could see my hair, I don't know. It varies. To be honest. Now what's nice is that okay, the beard. So not having a beard, I think that's an impact. Although I'd love to have one, I can't grow one. So I think that's something that has an impact that I just thought of literally now.
And that I'm trying to relate it back to the question. That makes you feel invisible.
No, it's not to the extent of people that I feel like are real invisible Muslims. For example, someone that's blind. So that's something that I was thought of. Someone that's visually impaired is and for example goes to the masjid. It's just like there's been times where I've been to the masjid for Isha or Fajr and I find someone blind and it just puts me to shame. Puts you to shame that like in the community, I think they're seen as visible or they're just seen as someone like chosen by Allah in a sense. Their hardship it happened by qadr Allah, right? But no one knows the difficulty that that blind person has to go through in order to just walk a 5 minute into the masjid.
Now you mentioned blind people, and we're
Yeah.
gonna come back to that. So
Okay.
hold that thought. But before we come back to it, what's your answer in regard to have you ever felt like an invisible Muslim?
Yeah, I have. But my one isn't, my definition, my idea of it is not the same as his. My one is more so where I like my own company. I like being alone sometimes, especially when I'm like, if I'm in a state of ibadah, for example. I don't like making dua in front of people. Nothing wrong with it, obviously. But I like keeping to myself, keeping in my own thoughts. And yeah, I have felt sometimes where it's like, and I like it though. I don't like being that like center of attention, spotlights on them. I want to do my own thing without anyone looking and saying, "Oh, mashallah, this guy's a good guy. This kid's a good kid. This boy's a good boy." Do you know what I mean? I don't like that. So I do like keeping to myself. For example, if I'm going to the masjid for Salat al Fajr, for example, and there are people that go to the masjid like within my community that would know my parents, for example, would know my family and whatever, and I literally keep my head down, go to the masjid, and I leave. I don't go there with the intention of people seeing me. I don't go there with the intention of people thinking I'm pious. Far from it. But it's them ones where I know that they know who I am, but it's like he's a stranger. It goes back to the gharib that I use. Like
Right.
you're a stranger.
Right.
They don't know much about you.
For this one, then, for this particular podcast, if we go by the definition, so that we're all on the same page, as an invisible Muslim is someone who is kind of not looked at in our particular community, in the Muslim communities. So those that are, for example, reverts, those that have disabilities. If we go by this definition, going forward, I think it will just be a better
Okay,
conversation. So
fair.
we're all on the
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the same page.
Okay, yeah.
And then that goes over to you, Faris. Now, have you ever seen someone and looked at them and knowingly seen that they're an invisible Muslim, or come across a particular situation where you've seen that they've been shunned or they've been left out or anything like that? Have you? You have?
Yeah, I have. Subhanallah. And it's not it's not one that you particularly think of when it comes to invisible Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like 2 years ago during Ramadan, um, there was a argument in the masjid where two uncles unfortunately got into a heated argument. Nobody knew what it was about, but voices started rising, getting louder and louder, almost getting to a physical altercation. Now, here's the beauty in where it comes to about invisible Muslims. When they both calmed down and went their separate ways and divided to each other, the brother that was seen as the aggressor in that situation, nobody necessarily came up to him and said him, "Are you okay? It's fine. Sabr, calm down, have some peace." And I saw in that time, everybody was going to the guy that was seen as the victim of that situation and coddling him, speaking to him, which is good, which is good. But nobody necessarily checked up on the guy that might have made the mistake to start the argument. And that goes with just anyone in general, not just reverts and people who are seen as invisible Muslims. I think when someone's in a state of making a mistake, I think it's that barrier of humility where you should come up to them, communicate to them, like, listen, it's okay, everybody makes mistakes. So yeah, that's the first thing that came to mind.
No, but I want to specifically speak about reverts and those with disabilities. And obviously, not all disabilities are visible. So it's hard to see sometimes, or hard to know if you're not familiar with it, because some are hidden disabilities. But specifically them, have any of you guys come across any
Yeah.
situation?
I have.
Do you want to go ahead?
I was first.
Thank you. I guess I'm always gonna be first then.
Yeah.
So,
You're old, blood.
anyway, why are single guys talking?
I can't relate. Don't know. Don't know.
Old guy, bro.
Sorry.
I'm not even talking.
Anyway, in terms of a revert, so I've seen an instance where I think someone presumed that someone was this brother who's a revert was like a Muslim for quite a long time. Um, and he was making a mistake in his salah. He was making a mistake in his prayer, where he made a mistake in a ruku' or a sajda, right? And he was just praying tahiyatul masjid, like upon entering the masjid. And then one of the guys, that was next to me was saying, "Oh, he just doesn't know. You know, I think he might be from a different sect or something like that." And I had known that the guy is a revert, and he was still learning. But then I said to the guy, "Well, don't you think if you maybe seen he's made a mistake, you can tell him?" He just left it. He said, "No, no, no, it's fine. He doesn't follow the same Islam as us." It was that mad. I was thinking, no, this guy is a revert. He's new to Islam. He's still learning. So then I spoke to him after the salah, outside the masjid. It was just a matter of like, I didn't mention actually anything about the salah because I knew he was still new to it, and I knew he would eventually learn. But it was more asking like subliminal things like, how long have you been a Muslim? Has it been easy to learn? What have you been using to learn? So I guess it was just something like a mistake that he made. But it was someone, as I said, presumed that he's been a Muslim his whole life and he's just practicing or praying different to how we typically do or how Rasul prayed. Um, but in that instance, you shouldn't just think, "Oh, that guy's been a Muslim his whole life. He just prays like that." You should, if you know someone's making a mistake, or doing something wrong, you should mention to them or tell them, like, figure out why they're praying that way. I think if it's something like that in mind.
Why do you think the uncle acted the way he did? And not even just specifically that uncle, 'cause I don't want to nitpick on
Yeah.
him, but in general, then to open up to everyone,
Yeah.
why do you think people act in those ways?
To give like with using husn al-dhan, this is probably just ignorance. They just don't know
Yeah.
better. You know, and culture takes a big toll on it as well. A lot of our cultures, like, yeah, we're Muslim, but we tend to belittle other skin colors, other cultures, other races, you know. So as them ones where they would see that and they would instantly they assume the worst straight away. It's just ignorance. I don't think it comes from an evil place. It's genuinely they don't know about.
It's like brushing it under the carpet type of culture.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So when you're not affected, brushing it under the carpet, not you. I'm not saying you said this, but brushing it under the carpet it seems acceptable. But what about for those that are affected by it? Is brushing it under the carpet good enough?
It's never good enough.
No, not at all.
So then, what can we do to change this mindset of we're ignorant, we don't know?
I think it goes back to the root of people's upbringings. Like I mentioned, generally, like our cultures tend to belittle other cultures. It's always our peoples are better than their people. Our skin color is better than their skin color. You know,
Do you think it's a cultural thing?
a lot of the time, yeah, a lot of the time it is because if
But
you
what
look,
if it's seen in every culture? That type of culture
Yeah.
exists. Behavior, sorry.
that's what I'm saying.
So
That's
if
what
you
it
got
is.
a white man, a black man, a
Yeah.
brown man, all of them doing the same
That-
thing in the same
Yeah,
masjid.
that's what I'm saying. That's how it. So it goes back to their root. It goes back to their core root. So
But
Allah says in the Quran,
He's
that,
saying if it's in every single culture,
Yeah.
does that make it a cultural thing, or does it make it
Human thing.
yeah?
it's a human thing. Yeah, no, of course, it's a human thing. So that's why Allah says in the Quran that He created people in different tribes and stuff to get to know one another, and people fail to do that. People fail to mingle with other cultures.
But I want to specifically talk about. I want to move
So-
away from culture. It's more.
I'm thinking about what I know some messengers are doing well in things like this. But say for instance, it's people that are deaf. So East London Mosque, the Friday khutbah, you have someone that's can communicate through sign language, so that those that are deaf are not left out. Another thing within the same masjid in East London Mosque, they have they teach Quran through sign language as well. Um, they've got revert classes and revert meetups, things like that. So that's knowing that the people that are typically shunned in community, let's say not just as a Muslim but as a human, they don't want them to feel left behind as a human and as a Muslim. So I'm not sure if you've ever seen someone that's deaf praying, especially in jama'ah, so in congregation. They have to be so wary of their surroundings. So they know they have to go in the ruku' when someone next to them does. Whereas we know we have to go into the ruku' when we hear it. So yeah, I think it's so. If your question was how we can not brush it,
Not so much like, what do you think the reason is
the
that
reason.
people? So we said ignorance. Okay, fine, but is that
I think it's so
how do
lack of
we
empathy.
how do we stop that ignorance basically?
Mm.
How do we? Because obviously we all agree that ignorance isn't a good enough excuse. We
Yeah.
can't just say I don't know why we think of someone like this.
So I think
So then how do we change that?
so.
So you mentioned, for example, in
Yeah.
East London Masjid, they have these things already in place, but we also discussed that it's not just a cultural thing; it's a human thing
Yeah.
spread across our community.
Yeah.
Now, how do we change that? We're going to be from the Ummah of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and he was the most merciful. He was the one that he focused on those that also didn't have that also had disabilities. For example, Abdullah ibn Maktoum, he made him the mu'adhin. He was someone who was blind, but he made him the mu'adhin. So much so that Abdullah ibn Maktoum used to have to ask two people, okay, when can you see the light of the sun, just so I know when to do the adhan. These are things that like the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would do and put in place. He would specifically he told us to look after orphans, he told us to look after the poor, he told us to visit the sick. He put these provisions in place, but what are we doing about it now? Now what's the reason why we're just able to say sorry, I don't know, or sorry, it's okay to
It
just
goes back
brush
to
it under the
ignorance. It goes back to ignorance.
But how do we remove that ignorance?
I'll go on.
Study?
No,
Go learn.
exposure,
Yeah.
bro. It's about exposure.
Exposure.
If you have someone who's grown up their whole lives seeing brothers and sisters who have Down syndrome, blind, deaf, if you grow up seeing this, you're gonna think it's part of the norm for you.
Yeah.
So seeing somebody walk in with a disability into the masjid, it's gonna be normal to you. Say, and exposure is the solution, I think, to ignorance in this case.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
But at the same time, right, you have to think to yourself, parents who have children who have Down syndrome or are blind or deaf, bring your children to the masjid.
Now that's easy to say.
Of course.
It is, and the reason why I can speak on it is because I have someone close to me who has autism, very close to me, and I've taken them to the masjid, personally, and they like the thing I find the most frustrating is the looks you receive. Is it makes you so uncomfortable. It's like, although the person with me doesn't notice it, probably I notice it,
Yeah.
and for me that hurts me, and it's. I bring them to the masjid. Why are we getting stares? Why are we not just getting on with things?
Yeah.
So it is exposure, because the masjid should be the hub of the community where anyone can go. But is that always the case? Even outside of disabilities, even outside of reverts, we see even just with sects that some people aren't welcome in certain masjids. So it's not always the case where I agree, exposure is definitely, I think, the way to go, but it's how do you now make those people comfortable? It's easy to say, bring your children to the masjid, bring these people to the masjid, but then what are you doing to facilitate it, and what are you doing to make them welcome?
I think it varies on like each invisibility. So say for instance, if it was someone that's autistic, having like things like sensory rooms, it's something that someone with autism or a parent of a child with someone with autism, they would appreciate it because they know that their child wouldn't be exposed to really loud and bright spaces, which will make them more comfortable. So I guess it's
Yeah.
that adjustment for them,
Yeah,
right?
I think sensory rooms is a good start, but I don't think it's the solution
You know, of course,
because
it's
again, like you
yeah,
said, every child is different.
of course, yeah,
But I do think like look, one of our local masjids in Harrow, they have a sensory room now.
yeah.
But they were also the same masjid that we went to where the stairs were deafening.
But was it people that were older, much older?
No,
It was just
everyone,
okay,
bro,
yeah, yeah,
everyone.
okay.
And I also think I think it's human nature to fear the unknown.
Oh yeah, so that's what the issue is.
Yeah.
So we spoke about exposure, education. I think professionalism as well. Now that Muslims are becoming way more educated in specific fields. So, say for instance, I'm going to stick to the topic of autism because I also have someone close to me as well that's autistic. Um, in their school, they have a Muslim woman that looks after them throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's someone that their parents will feel comfortable for them to be with throughout the day, and maybe they will feel comfortable as well. And it's just like us, me, or as Muslims as well, um, becoming experts in many fields that can benefit us all. So for instance, um, someone um working with the SEN community in SEN schools.
Does everyone know what SEN is?
Special educational
Educational
needs.
needs.
Okay, perfect. I'll just
Yeah,
just in case. Yeah, sorry.
yeah. So it's a very difficult and very big question. There are many solutions, but I think you have to have consistency with those solutions as well.
So then, what are some of the solutions? We mentioned sensory room.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
getting for you. I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
I'm like
No, okay.
at
So
you
what?
lot, but
Yeah.
I feel like these conversations are taboo topics that no one speaks about.
So what I
And
was
the,
about
the
to,
less
yeah.
we speak about it, the less exposure there is, and the less solutions that we're providing.
So
So
what I was gonna say was, but I feel like it's far fetched though. So say for instance there was just a specific jama'ah, a prayer congregation for those with disabilities. But what that does is it takes them away from the community. You want them to be with within the community, but if it's in the instance with just those with SEN,
Hmm.
then that will help them because in their schools they tend to be together anyway. They're not integrated.
I, so I think I hear what you mean.
Do you understand? But
Yeah,
it's like we do want them to eventually feel integrated.
but they need that stepping stone.
Exactly, yeah.
Some children need to just, for example, be familiar with going to the masjid and knowing
Yeah.
that I'm safe here. You know,
Yeah.
before going to the next step, going to Jama'ahs with everyone else.
Yeah, yeah,
So I
exactly.
like that because then you have even like when you look outside of the Muslim community, you have Sen sessions at trampoline parks where it's
Yeah,
Sen
yeah.
children. You have
But they're like,
swimming. You
it's
have
only 1 hour in the whole week.
it's true. It is,
It's
and
just one
it
specific,
is
which is still good.
it is still good, but and it is ridiculous that it's only 1 hour.
Yeah.
But it's still something.
Yeah.
Where you compare that to the Muslim community, what is there? You know,
Yeah, we're starting small.
you know.
So there you go. That's the solution. Ask me more questions. I love it.
I want him to start answering because he's just sitting there like
Kick it, Kes.
out of this conversation. Do you have any solutions, or do you have any thoughts on this entire conversation? Now I'm gonna look at you while drinking.
I think it's sad. I can't lie.
Huh?
I
It
think
is
it's
sad.
sad. Yeah, well, like when you mentioned the whole taking the close person that you know that has autism to the masjid, and again stairs. The fact that they don't know what's going on, they think it's okay.
But
That you feel
it shouldn't be
It
sad.
shouldn't, of course, it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be
I
sad.
just feel
Look, it's autism. Like we say in our family that the person that has it is amongst those in Jannah
yeah,
because their pen's been lifted.
yeah.
You know, they're amongst those in Jannah. We call them Jannah boy.
Mm.
Like
Mm.
so, I like we don't feel sad for the child. You know,
I feel
but
sad that the fact that the
I
Ummah's
feel
come to this
yeah.
state of like looking down on someone.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That could be anyone.
You
it
know,
could be
it's I think it's sort of I don't know the surah, but it's Allah says those that are the most noble are those that and the closest to Him are those that are the righteous.
Mm.
Not those that are ones that have a higher status, or not those that are the ones that earn a certain amount.
Hmm.
It's those that are the most sincere, the most righteous, and you can't get any more sincere than than some of these people with these disabilities.
Yeah.
You know, and they're the ones that are closest to Allah, and yet we frown upon them, or we look the other way, or we
Yeah.
stare. And but I think it's the fear factor, and it's these conversations when you mention exposure, when you mention having those, you know, although it looks like we're taking them away from the community, you're providing them those safe spaces. I think it's these type of things that are going to help bring them back.
Definitely.
Not bring them back, really. Bring us back. That's the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
It's not about bringing that. It's about bringing us back.
You know, again mentioning autism again. So autism isn't. It's not a new thing, but it's beginning to seem like a new thing for a lot of people, right? So I think the rates of autism have increased significantly in the last few decades, but it existed obviously in the past, and in the old Maori language, which was spoken in New Zealand, I think the word, I don't want to butcher the word, but it's something like kati gawanga, right? And what it means,
I don't know where that came from.
well, so what it means is,
Ashwagandha.
so the what it means, and it relates to people with autism. It means in their own space and time. So, just like you said, gender boy, his pen is lifted, right? Um, and sometimes people feel pressured. Oh, he needs to be praying, he needs to be doing this, all this other stuff. But he's in his own space of time, and his relationship with Allah can be improved from how you are as a person. If you are just stressed out and whatever it is, and stressed out by how they react to things, whatever it is, then you can't make them comfortable in their own space and time. We will never understand what it's like. So how we can't expect them to understand how we are.
Yeah. Do you know, it's not, and I don't want to specifically talk about him.
Yeah.
In general, it's not so much their relationship with Allah, because their pen's been lifted. It's
Yeah.
more so having them part of the community,
Yeah.
not shunning them, not because at the end of the day, whether they pray salah or not, their pen's lifted.
Yeah.
You know, if
Yeah,
they
exactly.
don't have the capacity, it doesn't affect them. It's not where like we're teaching them to pray salah to so much. It is also to have that relationship with Allah, but if they don't have that understanding, it's more so you're part of the community. This is what our community does. You have a sense of belonging. You know, when if for example, someone if a parent of someone that has autism isn't around, they should still be at ease knowing that my child is still protected by the Muslim community. My child can still go to the masjid. This is his purpose. He's not going to just grow up and not know what to do in life.
Yeah.
He's going to know that he can go to the masjid 5 times a day. The brothers at the masjid are going to look after him.
Yeah.
They're going to know when he comes to not so much like make him feel like we're doing so much for him, but to still have that, I want to say special treatment, but to still look after them,
Feel welcomed.
basically.
Isn't that our job though?
Yeah, that is our job.
Yeah.
As Muslims, that should be
As
our
a
job.
Ummah, that is
But
our
it's why we're not fulfilling that
Yeah.
duty. That's what I really want to get down
Yeah.
to. What is the core reason? Now, we said lack of exposure. We said fear of the unknown. We said ignorance. But is there more
I
like...
think if in terms of like the solutions that we said, so starting off small, so say for instance like the sensory rooms, then the SEN Jama'ahs, things like that. It sounds so fast.
You know what, before that, even before we start talking about sensory rooms and making platforms for people with disabilities, one huge factor we need to also take into account is acceptance.
Yeah.
Because I saw on a podcast the other day that, and we mentioned SEN,
Hmm.
a lot of Muslim parents just don't accept the fact that their child has autism or has a disability.
Yeah.
And so they act like it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So us as a community, first we need to accept it, all right? Deal with it, and that fact that Allah has given you I don't want to call it a test, but
It's a
this is
ni'mah.
the situation.
It's a ni'mah. It's a ni'mah.
And this is the situation you're in. So you need to accept it, all right? And then, like any other situation in life, move with the right foot forward first.
Once you accept it, you'll find the solution yourself.
You know, now that you mentioned that, so say for instance, there's parents. If a child comes to them and tells them that they're depressed, it's a gene issue. You know, they just say, "Oh no, you've got a gene issue."
It goes back to the parents.
Yeah,
It
I
goes
mean,
back to the root.
you need to do your adhkar, all these things, of course. If they're doing the adhkar and they're reading the Quran and they're practicing faith as much as possible, and your first reaction is to when they say that they're down, depressed, they're sad, you have a jinn issue, then that is lack of acceptance, right? Sometimes people do actually have issues. Maybe there have been something that's happening in school that they're not telling you about because they don't feel comfortable to tell you, or they're being exposed to too much screen time. They're not going out enough. All these other things, right?
Mhm.
That we, I think, as Muslims, sometimes believe the issue is spiritual when it's actually it could be physical and mental as well.
And you mentioned how the kid's not comfortable going to their parents. Don't you think that reflects on what the parents are like?
Yeah, of course.
If you're not going to give your kid the ability to come and talk to you when they're down, then they're going to resort to other things.
Yeah.
Inshallah, they resort to going to Allah, of course.
You know,
Yeah,
I used to think that in terms of if the parents not like in a
I'm
certain
talking
way.
about young kids. I'm not talking about like.
I still
older
think
kids.
in general it's hard. Like
Kids should also always have mentors. Sorry,
Yeah.
carry on, carry on.
yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that. But it's like it's easy to always blame the parents in
Yeah.
terms of you should be welcoming, but maybe they are. If we look at like some of our people in the past, you know, look at Umar bin Khattab for example. How one of his sons were compared to one of the other sons, two complete opposites, and you're the child of the leader of the Ummah. You know, it's you can't say he was a bad parent. He was a
But this
good
is
parent.
Omar we're talking about. I'm talking about parents nowadays.
No, but
Like
that's
what
but
Abe
that's
said,
my
they just
point.
brush it. They just brush
This is Omar we're talking about,
Yeah.
who is amongst the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, his child was the complete opposite to
Yeah.
Omar.
No, it's true, of course. Yeah. It's
So
true.
it's, if the best and still had the complete opposite,
course,
then
Yeah.
like
Like
who are
Nuh,
we, you know?
Nuh alayhi salam, his son.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have examples of where
It's multiple
you have
examples in the Quran.
Yeah,
so
like
so-
honored
yeah.
parents that parents are being put on this pedestal and they fulfill their duties, but their child still doesn't, you know, go the right way.
That's
And
true.
we can't then blame the parent.
No, of course.
You
It
know?
gets to an extent where you can't blame the parents.
Yeah.
But the parents have to build that kind of safe space for their child, that the child doesn't need to resort to bad friends or drugs or crime or anything like that. They can come back to their parents and speak to their parents about it.
This
No.
is such a massive topic.
This is a massive topic. And I have 5 like very
Oh,
I
bloody.
think well
Oh, bloody. 5.
5 like deeper questions that I don't know where he's going with this.
Even deeper.
I don't know, thought provoking.
Let me drink.
That's why I said, oh, bloody. 'cause my
Thought-provoking
thoughts have been
questions.
provoked.
Okay.
That I want to ask you lot. But if you want to know what they are, you have to wait for the next episode.
Oh, bloody, indeed. Suspense.
Suspense.
I love it.
So if you watch this episode, Jazakallah khair, like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. And comment down below your thoughts on this, because
Run
this
it.
is a huge topic. And I don't think we've even scratched the surface, and I don't think we've even given it justice yet. And I don't think we'll be able to, that's the truth, because none of us are directly in the situation that we're discussing.
Yes.
But for those 5 questions, we see you on the next one.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.